I'm John Batchelor with Larry Kudlow, CNBC and Kudlow Radio, and we're very pleased to welcome James Taranto of the Wall Street Journal editorial board. James is here to help us on a story that was late in the day, the news cycle. 2-1 decision, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans denied the Obama administration's emergency request to lift a lower court's injunction on a new initiative to defer the deportations of illegal immigrants and grant them work permits. This, of course, is the very controversial decision made by the President of the United States last November after the 2014 midterm. James, a very good evening to you. You've had a chance to read this decision, and the U.S. Court of Appeals, it's a split decision on the basis of what? And what does this practically mean? Good evening to you, James.
Good evening. Well, I'll start with the easy question, what this practically means. It means this Obama policy is almost certainly not going to take effect before the 2016 election because the Obama administration may appeal to this to the Supreme Court, but it was decided purely on procedural grounds. I think there's no reason to expect that the Supreme Court would intervene, and therefore it will work its way through the lower courts. And nothing. The court has stayed the Obama administration's new policy, and that means the policy will not take effect until after the 2016 election.
And go ahead, Larry.
No, I think I'm probably going to ask the same question you are. So that means no more progress. The stay continues, and as you noted and John noted, they're not going to. Obama will not be able to do what he wanted to do. But James, my other question is this: is this a technicality or is this a ruling on executive authority? It sounds like it's more a technicality.
Well, it is a technicality, but the effect is the same as if it were a ruling on executive authority. What's fascinating about this whole issue is the Obama administration presented this and its earlier immigration decision a few years ago as being major changes in policy. This was the public argument they made. But if you read the documents, the legal documents that put this into effect, which are not even executive orders, they're memos from the Secretary of Homeland Security, they make it out to be nugatory, nothing. This is an exercise in prosecutorial discretion, they claim. The decisions will still be made on a case-by-case basis. It doesn't amount to anything. And so what the court did was, it didn't even answer that question, whether the executive branch has the authority under existing statutes to do this. What it said was, this was a major enough change that in order to impose this change, the executive branch, the Department of Homeland Security, was required to have a notice and comment period, which they failed to do. So if they follow the court's instructions now, they have to go back, they have to put forward this rulemaking, open it up to notice and comment. That will take a certain amount of time. Then they could theoretically go ahead with this. But by that time, there will be another election.
And James, do you believe that they will go through the comment period, or they'll go to the Supreme Court?
Well, I think first they'll try to appeal it to the Supreme Court. I suspect that the Supreme Court won't take this because it doesn't raise any serious constitutional questions. I don't believe there's a circuit split. There's no real reason for the court to rush it. There's every incentive for the courts to let this play out politically, which would mean letting it go to the next election. So I think that's what'll happen. It'll work its way through the courts, and there won't be a resolution of it until the next election. And the resolution may be that the next administration just drops it.
What's striking to me, Larry, is that the checks and balances designed by the, let's say, 39 men signed the document in the summer of 1787. That worked perfectly here. The executive proposed bypassing the legislative, and the judiciary stepped in and said, no, you can't bypass the legislative that easily. You've got to go through a process of involving the people in this decision, and that means we'll go to the next election cycle, and whoever the president is going to be will speak on his or her policy, and the people will vote, and then we'll get a decision. It's very neat, Larry.
It is neat. You're correct. I have no quarrel with your logic, and I'm certainly not a lawyer. The only thing is, I say this to both. By the way,
I'm not either, just in case you're casting aspersions on me there.
No, James, I never cast aspersions all the years I've known you.
I was celebrating our Constitution, gentlemen. That's what I'm celebrating.
I just want to say that as I listen to this, I'm a little bit unsatisfied because I really wanted a pound of flesh regarding the overreach of executive authority. And this is saying, well, there was no comment period. It is rather technical. John, you are correct. The court is putting it off to the next election so the people will decide.
As it should, Larry, because the president short-circuited. He lost the midterm election, and he ignored it.
I know, but yes to all that. I just wanted this court, or any court, to say, gosh darn it, you went too far. You have overreached, and this is a bad thing. And even liberals like Jonathan Turley, the lawyer in Washington, who's a smart guy, he said that too. That's not really been decided by this decision.
Well, the executive branch has a certain amount of discretion in enforcing immigration laws. And even the granting of work permits to illegal aliens, Congress has allowed in some circumstances. So whether this was, as a substantive matter, overreach is not that easy of a question. I mean, I think in the end it was because they carried it so far. But it was not as obvious a question as one may think, and it's not necessarily a violation of the executive's constitutional authority. Congress has the authority to make immigration law. The immigration laws that they've made have a certain amount of give in them, and courts generally are hesitant to reach a substantive question when they can decide the matter on procedural grounds. So I think the court did the right thing here. And
Mrs. Clinton has a campaign, and she has already indicated she's in favor of the president's decision. In fact, more in favor than perhaps the president. So if she wins the White House, then we'll go forward with a chance for public comment. Larry, we just have a minute and a half here, and you wanted to flag something that happened today with Marco Rubio, who will also speak on immigration.
Marco Rubio made a very militant, hostile speech against same-sex marriage, and he did it before the Christian Broadcasting Network. And he basically argues this is Armageddon for Christianity, okay? A month earlier on MSNBC, he takes a much more lenient position where he said, look, it's okay, the marriage definition comes from the states, people can decide themselves if two individuals of the same sex can be legal, and they can petition it, and I suspect you'll see that happen. That's a flip-flop. All right, that's catering and pandering to a very difficult group. Now, I myself am much more tolerant of it, but I'm not going to say what he said. I don't believe it's Armageddon for Christianity. It bothers me, and he did the same thing on immigration. He flip-flopped on citizenship. That bothered me, and he's flip-flopping on same-sex marriage. That bothers me, too.
Mr. Taranto, can we expect that you might write about this in your column in the next 24 hours on the matter of the decision of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals?
Perhaps. I'll figure that out in the next 12 hours or so. On the same-sex marriage thing, I didn't see either of Rubio's comments that Larry refers to, but I wonder if the second comment, the one about Armageddon for Christianity and so forth, might have been specific to the religious freedom question and might have been a reaction to some of what we've seen since the first.
No, that's not where he went, James. You take a look at it and you'll decide for yourself.
James Taranto of the Wall Street Journal is a member of the editorial board, writes Best to the Web each day. Larry Kudlow, CNBC and Kudlow Radio on the weekend. I'm John Batchelor.